I'm a fairly frugal person, the kind that likes to buy the lowest price per ounce shampoo at Costco and then spend a lot of time and energy making sure I drain it to the very last drop. A massage gun is involved in my process. Now, my husband Matthew, on the other hand, is someone that appreciates the finer things in life. And last year, for his 30th birthday, he decided that he would treat himself to a fancy watch. Now, when he gets into something, he really gets into it. And he was spending hours on forums and Google researching the different features and brands. And I was seeing numbers like $4,000, $6,000, upwards of $10,000. So my panic was growing with each new tab I saw in his browser. Ultimately, he settled on one. It's called the Hamilton Murph. For those that don't know, in big letters on the website, it says, "The watch that defied time." Little dramatic, because it was featured in Interstellar, the Christopher Nolan film. Now, it looks pretty nice. It's got a stainless steel case and a black background on the face and vintage-looking numbers. But most importantly for me, the price tag. About $1,000. Not negligible for us, but after what I'd seen, I actually felt relieved. So I gave the okay for him to click purchase now on a used Murph, save us a couple hundred, that was for sale in Singapore. He bought it, and within a couple days, apparently it made it to Alaska, but then the tracking completely stopped updating. And all the time that Matthew had spent researching the watch, he now spent sitting on the couch, pressing refresh on the FedEx website. This went on for a couple of days, then a week, over a week, and I was starting to think that we probably got scammed and regretting that I insisted on going used. Then one day, I was checking the mailbox, and among all the other bills and usual flyers that we'd get, I came across a letter that had pretty official-looking print on it. And I got excited because I thought it was probably a check, unexpected. Tore it open excitedly. Not a check, not even close. It was about the watch, and it said we owed a tariff. $350. I took a deep breath. I wanted to grab the tariff and go wave it in Matthew's face and say, "Look what your watch is costing us now. It's over the original price." But another part of me actually didn't want to show him at all because I felt a little embarrassed that I hadn't known this would happen. You see, this was 2025, and I'd been reading about tariffs in the news headlines for months now. Not only that, my research team at Stanford, the Global Capital Allocation Project, works in geoeconomics, understanding how companies use economic tools like tariffs to achieve political goals. So yeah, I felt like I probably should have predicted this. It was a few years ago that GCAP started developing a theory of geoeconomics, and at the time, no one was paying much attention to what we were doing, but the world has changed. And over the past year, I'd not only been reading headlines about tariffs, but also sanctions on Russia and export controls on semiconductors and restrictions on critical minerals, all examples of the use of geoeconomic tools. And the tariff on Matthew's watch was just one small example of a broader shift that we were seeing in the international world order. Now, that came with renewed interest in our work, and especially after the April 2025 large-scale U.S. tariffs, our inbox completely exploded. We were hearing from CEOs and national security personnel and financial officials and central bank boards, all trying to navigate the new reality of the world they were operating in. We got called into dozens of meetings behind closed doors where we explained our theory of geoeconomics and talked about how you might want to operate as a decision maker in the new landscape. Sometimes in those meetings, at the end, the central bank governor or national security advisor would look at us across the table and ask, "So what do you think I should do?" And in those moments, I'd freeze because we're no longer talking about whether we should pay a couple $100 to get the watch that defied time, right? Designing geoeconomic policy has pretty substantial potential ramifications. If you do it wrong, you can harm your economy more than you help it, or you can lose your leverage for future negotiations if you overplay your hand, or at the extreme, you can fail to prevent the military conflict that you're trying to avoid. I could talk all day about how geoeconomics works in theory, but what these policymakers were looking for was on the ground real information about what's going on now. And that was something that we didn't have anything tangible to offer them on, and began to emerge as a real gap in our availability to advise in these situations. A few days after one of these meetings, I was talking to the team about some of my concerns in this area, and someone suggested, why don't we post the AI data? And I thought, holy smokes, that is exactly what we should do. Once again, why didn't I think of this first? We'd been sitting on a side research project where we used large language models to read through hundreds of thousands of firm documents where they talked about exactly how they were impacted by geoeconomic pressure and how to respond. This type of data was not available anywhere else, and it was exactly the type of thing that someone who's thinking about one of these policies might want to know and understand in order to make the next steps. Of course, it wasn't available from us either at the time because we had it in huge data files on our server. So I called up a data visualization company to see what they could do for us. And they were super excited, really on board, really nice, wanted to create a dashboard, had done a lot of great work. And then they quoted me $60,000 a month for a minimum of 3 months just to get started. And I had to take another deep breath because that was not in our lab's budget, and we were back to square one on brainstorming. And okay, we're thinking, if AI could create the data, then maybe AI can also create the dashboard for us. So I called up our data scientist, Max, who's actually here tonight, and he turned around the first draft in a week for free. Thank you, Max, for an incredible cost savings hack. I'm sitting at my desk when Max sends me the link to the mock-up, and I'm a little surprised because it hasn't been that long since this idea originated, and a little skeptical that it might be something that we could actually use. But he says it's ready, so I click the link, and I see the world map pop up, and there's circles on it. Seems to be populated with data. Great start. I decide to search for NVIDIA, a firm that I've been seeing in the news, impacted by export controls. It pops up, I scroll down, and I locate the end of 2022, which was the first time that NVIDIA was impacted by export controls. I see it right there, it lines up with my prior. It's a good start. I keep scrolling, and I see an evolution in the firm. I see when those export controls began impacting their sales in China, and I see what strategies they're using to adjusting supply chains, delaying certain decisions, etc. And there's even more details. And now I'm a little excited because this type of report is something that I would want to be able to share in one of those meetings. So I go through my mind and all the list of the headlines I've been seeing. I search up ASML and TSMC, other semiconductor firms, and then I go for countries too. U.S., China, what sectors are impacted by tariffs, Russia, sanctions. It's all there. I go through everything that I can think of, do some Googling and do a few more, and now I'm really excited because I haven't even scratched the surface. There's 20 years of data in this thing for over 20,000 firms, and it's exactly the type of thing that I can use to reply to that email from the asset manager or to present to the finance official in our meeting next week. And I'm feeling like we did it, you know? And it wasn't even that hard. We had the data, and we just had to know what the questions were in order to turn it around to something that folks can use and potentially have an impact. As we've been iterating and working on it further, I think there's a deeper satisfaction in it for me. You know, I said I'm frugal, but I think it would be more accurate to say that I think a lot about the cost of things and whether it's worthwhile. The shampoo, the watch. And in geoeconomics, the stakes are just a whole lot higher. Using the GCAP Geoeconomic Monitor, anyone can look up a country, sector, or firm to see how it's been impacted by geoeconomics and how it's responding in real time. And as we all collectively navigate the shift in the world order, providing tools that help policymakers make evidence-based decisions has the potential to lower the costs for everyone. Now, in case you're wondering, Matthew and I did pay the tariff, and the watch was worth every penny to him. I still catch him often tinkering with it with his little tiny screwdriver. And I'm not mad about it, but I told him when he turns 40, if he wants to make another international purchase, he's going to have to do his homework on the monitor first. Thank you.